Alrighty, what's going on everyone? Coach Aaron here, back in another video. In this video today, we're going to break down the Powerlifting America Classic Nationals just happened and really focusing on my one lifter, Jonathan Garcia, who won the national title. So we're going to get right into it, and I'm going to throw some videos in here as well as I'm going through the process so you guys can understand, what our game plan was kind of going into the meet and then during the meet. So obviously going into the meet, we want to win the title, whatever it takes, so that we can get to the World Championships. Previously, Jonathan's competed in USA Powerlifting, where he's gotten, second or third place multiple times the last few years, but we've never able to put it all together at nationals and have the meet that we really are capable of, put the total we're capable of, and win first place. Especially, if we fall behind the subtotal, since he has a really big squat and bench press, then it can be hard to try and keep up with these other athletes when it comes to the deadlift, since they have big deadlifts and we don't. And so we always have issues where we're, the first person to deadlift, and then also sometimes he has grip issues. So if he misses third deadlift, he's basically out at that point. So this time going in, the numbers, if you look at the openers, are very similar to what we've done in the previous meets. So the squat, the 250 opener was the same as we've done the past two meets. And then same thing with bench press, you can see the same as the past two meets. And deadlift was the same as the local meet where he hit his best total. But at nationals last year in Daytona, we initially had that opener in, but actually bumped it up to try and keep up with Daniel and these other competitors. But initially that would have been the same opener as well. So basically the same openers as the previous meets to try and be conservative going in, and then take jumps that we can make to make as many attempts as possible and beat our top competitor, which is Rodrigo Manzo. So going into squat, Jonathan smokes his 250, and so we took a 10 kilo jump to 260. We try to do a little bit smaller jumps here again to just make sure we can make attempts that we know we're capable of based on how the previous attempt moved, and not go too risky, miss out on two squats. For Rodrigo, that's kind of what happened. He jumped from 225 to 235. On the 235 second attempt, he just straight up missed it. He didn't get to come up with it. So at that point, when we made our 260, I also went a little bit conservative there. So I went to 268, which would have chipped the national record and was technically above the world record, but potentially we were going to go more. We were going to go, 270.5 or maybe even 273, because Jonathan has done like 280 or more multiple times in the gym. Though obviously in the gym, there's difference with, body weight, depth, and those kinds of things. So, I was hoping, potentially 270.5 was there at this body weight and the speed of this meet being only one flight. But we played even more conservative. Once Rodrigo missed a second, I just went with 268 for our third attempt. On Rodrigo's third attempt, he ended up missing that as well. He ended up standing up with it, but he cut his depth in order to come up with it, because obviously on the second one, he missed it. So his adjustment, I guess, was to try and cut a little bit higher so he can come up with it, and he got called for depth. And then for us, Jonathan actually again stood up with it similar to Rodrigo. He got called for depth as well, 2-to-1, one from the head judge and one from the side judge. For me in the coach's box from the side, with all the spars in the way, the referees, the cameraman, the weights and everything like that, it was a little bit hard to see depth. But as far as the speed of the weight and then how far down it looked like he went, then Jonathan coming off the platform, he thought it was good. And I was like, okay, let me go to the jury and try and protest this call. So if you have a 2-to-1 call either way for yourself or for a competitor, you can go to the jury and protest that call and say the referees made an obvious mistake and it should be flipped the other way. So, this is a national championship. We're in a battle. I have to do whatever I can for my athlete. And so I was like, okay, this is what we need, this 8 kilos on squat, because we thought we were going to be in a battle, especially after Rodrigo missed a second and third. This was going to help us gain some ground since he was higher than us on projected total on openers. So I went to the jury and I tried to protest it and say, hey, it looked the same depth to me as the first and second attempt. They weren't going for it, so we didn't end up getting the protest in our favor. So we ended up going 2 for 3 on squats, ending up with 260, but Rodrigo went 1 for 3 on squats, ending up with just his opener of 225. So then we go into bench press, and similar to squats, we have the big bench press, so we get the bench afterwards. We get to watch Rodrigo's attempts first, and Rodrigo's opening bench press, he missed it. So I'm not sure if his butt came up as well, because I couldn't see from the staging area, because Jonathan was going to be the next lifter, if his butt came up, but it looked like a really big struggle. He kind of clipped underneath the hook on one side, barely locked it out and racked it, and then he got called a no lift. So potentially his butt came up as well, and hitting the rack and everything like that just completely threw him off, and he missed that attempt. So we went up to our planned second attempt, which was going to be conservative anyways, which is 170.5 kilos to chip the record, because we missed out on the chip on the squat. Even though we were the lighter lifter and we didn't need the chip, because if we're tying in total, then we're going to win on body weight. but Rodrigo can go chip the deadlift record. So I was already looking ahead the deadlift, and Rodrigo was capable of chipping that. So in that situation, if we didn't chip the squat or bench press, then Rodrigo would only have to go, half a kilo in order to chip the deadlift and then beat us on the total. So I want to try and maybe gain some chips on squat and bench press so that he'd have to chip it further, plus potentially he could mess up the addition of what he needed to do, because it's easy if you have the same total, and instead of going 270, you go 270.5. It's easy to add the half a kilo. But if there's some kind of odd number, if we're at 691 total or 691.5 total, you have to try and calculate what you need for 692, and you have to maybe put in like a weird number like a 273.5 or 274 or something like that, then people can mess up that math. And Rodrigo came without a handler as well. He was just there by himself, loading his own weights, running his own attempts, everything like that. So I just wanted to make it a little bit more difficult for him trying to pull a chip in either the squat or bench press to potentially have him maybe screw up on the math as well. So we got the 170.5, and then Rodrigo had come back and got his second attempt as well, and he jumped up 7.5 kilos for his third attempt to try and gain some ground, because he had already missed out on 2 squats and he had missed out on his opener bench press. So we again played it conservative. After the 170.5, even though it moved well, I thought he jumped the press command a little bit, Jonathan that is, and the chief referee gave a yellow card, so I'm guessing he said as well I jumped the press command. So I played it conservative again, pulled down the numbers, went to 173, even though he's done before more in a competition and more in the gym. So again, playing conservative, we want to make attempts, especially on squat and bench press, so that Rodrigo has to pull something big. And since we had already missed out on our third squat and missed out on 8 kilograms there from the 260 to 268, I didn't want to make the same mistake in bench press, go from like 170.5 to like 178 and miss out again on 7.5 kilos, or even if we went 175.5, still missing out on 5 kilos can make a difference when it comes to deadlift. So we said, okay, let's just play it safe. Let's just take 173, gain another 2.5 kilos, continue to put that pressure on Rodrigo. So then we go into third attempt bench press, and Rodrigo misses his third bench, so he loses out on that chance of gaining those 7.5 kilos. And then we go and make our 173 kilos, because again, it was a small jump, it was going to be easy for him, and so we gained that 2.5 kilos. So now going into deadlift, where Rodrigo is, the big deadlifter and we're the subtotal guy, is we came away with 5 out of 6 attempts and he came away with 2 out of 6 attempts. And we maximized our bench as far as making 3 attempts, and we just left those 8 kilos on squat, unfortunately. So we were in a pretty solid position now since the beginning. When I first saw the openers, I'm like, this is going to be tough. Rodrigo's openers are much higher than us. We're going to have to gain some ground. Now we've gained that ground. We've executed perfectly on bench press and almost perfectly on squat, and we've covered that ground, and now we're putting that pressure on Rodrigo, and now he's going to have to deadlift something big, and not big compared to what he's done in the gym, but big compared to what he's done in the meet, because in the meet it can be different when you're cutting weight, when you're going at a faster pace, and when you don't have straps. So for Rodrigo, he trains a lot with straps. And then even for Jonathan, like I said, he has grip issues, so with straps he can do much more. So now it comes down to what can both of them do at body weight in a one flight competition where you only have 20 minutes to warm up for each attempt, and the whole meet's like 2.5 hours long, and you don't have the lifting straps. Now you have to hold on to the deadlift as you're grinding it out and lock it out. So we're on opening deadlifts, and Jonathan goes and smokes his 230, and so I played it conservative. Originally, I was going to take some bigger jumps similar to the squat, but I said, let's pull back a little bit, because like I said, the speed of the meet's fast and we're gaining ground. Rodrigo's already missed attempts, so we don't want to go and miss 2 deadlifts and basically just give it all back to Rodrigo, and he has the easier pull for the win. We want to play a little bit more conservative, continue to build that total, make 3 deadlifts, and force him to have to pull something big that he hasn't done before in a meet. So I played conservative, went 7.5 kilo jump to 237.5, and then said, okay, let's see how Rodrigo's opening deadlift looks like. And his opening deadlift, moved well. It looked a little bit maybe like the knees got a little bit soft once he locked out, but he got 3 whites. And so it's okay, now the game is on. So we go and we make our 237.5, and he jumped from the 272.5 up to 285. And basically what it seemed like Rodrigo's plan was, since he was playing a little bit catch up at that point, is that he was putting his attempt in based on if we missed our next attempt. So he put the 285 kilo second attempt based on if we miss our second attempt of 237. So if we had missed our 237 twice and we were left with, I believe it's 663 total, then he could have made his 285, would have got him up to 662.5 to then beat us on the total. So he was trying to play that game like, okay, let's hope Jonathan, misses attempt and he'll just stay 1 attempt behind of what he needs to do. So when we hit the 237.5 on the second attempt. Not only did Rodrigo need to go make the 285, but then he'd have to go make a third attempt to gain the ground on us just making our second attempt. So I was like, okay, we already have a little bit of a lead, and then if we make our third attempt, we can boost that lead further. So initially I put another 7.5 kilo jump. I put in 245 kilos and said, let's go watch Rodrigo's second attempt at 285, see if he makes it, and then see what I think he's capable of as far as the third attempt. And the 285, like I said, something he's capable of in the gym, but he hasn't hit in a meet before. And so that would have been a meet PR for him. And he ends up pulling it, around to where the knees are, and then losing his grip, I believe, on the left side, and it slipped out and fell. So now he missed his second attempt deadlift, and he's falling behind more, just like he had it in the squat and the bench press. So at that point, I was thinking about it. I was discussing it with Jonathan, everything like that. So Rodrigo's gonna have to at least pull, 290 plus. And if we make our third, we can even force the pressure more and more on him. So then I changed the 245 down to 242.5 because you get 2 changes to your third attempt deadlifts. So I changed it down to 242.5 just to play it safer, take a 5 kilo jump, and like I said, put more pressure on him. So we went out there, and as you can see, the 242 was really easy. Looked almost like an opening attempt for Jonathan. He took some ammonia on that one, got jacked up, held it, everything like that. That wasn't an issue. So now we've gone 3 for 3 on bench press, 3 for 3 on deadlift, ended on a good note. And now Rodrigo has to put something on the bar, one that he's never done in a competition before, but more than the weight he just missed on grip on his second attempt. So Rodrigo put the change in for his third attempt for 296 kilos, which was gonna be the pull for the win. And then he went out and tried it and wasn't able to get it. So unfortunately for Rodrigo, he didn't have the day that he wanted. He only got his opening squat. He only got his second attempt bench press, which was his opening weight that he had to repeat, and then his opening deadlift. So he went 3 for 9. And he totaled more than what he did in Daytona when he had a bad day there as well, but he didn't total as much as his best meet in 2019 when he won nationals and beat us head to head. On the flip side for Jonathan, we missed that third attempt squat on depth just barely, and potentially if he was able to get down that extra inch and dip it down, he would have stood up with it and got, the 3 squats as well. But we still finished off on a good note, getting all the benches in, all the deadlifts in, so we went 8 for 9. And again, similar to Rodrigo, for Jonathan, we didn't hit a PR total, so we didn't do as much as he's done a local meet of 697, but we still, improved from Daytona and executing in the meet, making attempts and putting up a good total together, and obviously winning the national title, which is the most important. And that's something people may not understand. So people want to go for PRs in every meet or break a national record or world record in every meet and go balls to the wall, but depending on the scenario and who your competitors are and how close it is, you may not need that or may not want to go for that. It's kind of like if you're already up in a football game, if you're on offense, then you're running the ball and trying to waste the time. You're not throwing Hail Marys. And if you're on defense, you're playing more conservative defense. You may play cover 2 and just defend the big plays and let them do run plays or low dink and dunks and try and waste time. So you want to play more conservative when you're already in the lead. Same thing like in a basketball game. If you're down 1 or 2 points, then you're going to try and, go to the rim and get a layup or maybe get a foul and go to the free throw line rather than just jacking up a 3-pointer or a half-court shot, whatever, and just going again for a Hail Mary shot. You want to play the game based on what's going on in the game and not worrying about, your personal stats and how many touchdowns you got or what records can you break, those kind of things. You're there for the national title or the world title if there's a world championship. So that's the stuff Jonathan and I discussed going in and during the competition, especially with the quick turnaround of about 8 weeks from nationals to worlds. We didn't want to go all out RP 10 on all 3 lifts if we didn't have to, and then it takes more time to recover after the meet, get back into training, and get ready for worlds. So the idea was kind of like, hey, if we have to push it, let's push it, and we can go, maybe 270 on squat, 177 on bench, and see what we can deadlift and push higher to a PR numbers if we have to in order to grab the national title and go to worlds. But if we don't have to, let's pull back to numbers and save ourselves for worlds. So luckily for us, that's what happened by Rodrigo having the bad day. And like he was telling me in the warm-up room, he's kind of giving away the national title to us, is we were able to pull back the bench numbers, pull back the deadlift numbers. Like I said, that final deadlift looked like a warm-up weight for him or an opening attempt for him. And so that way he's not as fatigued, less risk of injury, everything like that. So then John can get back to training and start getting ready for worlds, getting that volume training back in, and then soon he's gonna have to peak again. So people have to kind of apply those things that they may see in other sports, or even if they were a competitor in another sport that they did as a team, is now think about that when it comes to powerlifting. Depending on the priority of the competition and then your competition of as far as what other competitors are there in the same weight class and division as you, you want to play your strategy based on that. So whether you're going to cut down to your normal weight class or not cut down to that weight class, whether you're going to go all out with your attempts or not, whether you're going to go for a record or not, those are the different strategies you want to be thinking about, you by yourself or with your coach, before the competition. So you want to plan and prepare going into the competition, and then make adjustments on the day of based on how the competition is going, so that you can perform your best as far as winning those titles, and then saving the personal records maybe for like local meets, or saving like national world records in times where there's not as much competition, or maybe another international competition. For like Europeans, they may do European championships and go more out. For us, some people may do the Arnold Sports Festival when it was an international competition, or like the North American Championships, where for those meets, you're not worried about a world title or a national title, and you can go for those low stats and records at those times. Aside from Jonathan, I had one of my other lifters, Cindy Vanh, who got second place in the 47 kilo class. So she's on the reserves for Worlds. So if someone from our team drops out, she could potentially get in there and go to Worlds, but most likely with a short turnaround, no one's gonna drop out, and she'll probably get the invite for the North American Championships in August in Panama and potentially go to that. And then the other thing is, I did there at Powerlifting American Nationals, there were some competitors there that didn't have their coach there with them, so I helped them out. And then there was one session where I did the live stream commentary with Pack Lapadat for King of Lifts, just to, you know, hang out with him and help out, you know, as far as their first nationals, and doing a live stream commentary can be fun. And if you want to hear more about the Powerlifting American Nationals breakdown of all the weight classes one by one, who won, who's going to Worlds, what kind of competitors they have going to Worlds and stuff like that, then we did a podcast on King of Lifts recently that you can listen to, and I'll throw links to the Spotify episode, but you can go to any other podcasting site, whether it's Apple or Stitcher or whatever else, and go listen to it there. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.